Forge, Chapter 60. I worked through the night to clean the dining room, prepare for breakfast, and steal the food we'd need for our journey. When I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer, I laid my head on the kitchen table and slept for a few hours. Isabel was taken aback to find me there in the morning. What? I put my finger to her lips and pulled her into the larder with me. Even there, behind a closed door, I whispered, "We don't have much time." "What about the key?" she asked. Her face fell. "It didn't work, did it?" I grasped her arm tighter. "We have no choice. We have to leave." "But how?" "You have to write 2 notes. Make the first one look like it came from headquarters, requesting the presence of Bellingham and the other gentlemen. Tell them to arrive before 8 o'clock. But I haven't written anything in ages. He's sure to notice my script. I'll spill tea so that it's difficult to read. I'll say that the messenger told me what it contained." "What about the second note?" "Tell them about Gideon, that he gave news of the army to the Congress and to British." "Why do you care? It doesn't matter who wins the war." "I think it does. Write the note, please. We'll leave it out so they can find it after we're gone. We should wait a bit after they depart. They are forever forgetting things." She nodded. "Then what?" "Then we follow the river towards camp and wait for our luck to turn." Many girls and lads would be overcome by fear at that moment and blubbered or backed out of the plan. Not Isabel. The reverse side of her pig-headed stubbornness was unshakable courage that was worthy of a general. "If our luck doesn't turn for its own or for the good on its own, we'll make it turn." The early part of my scheme unfolded better than I had hoped. Bellingham and the others had already been inclined to join in the farewell of Lafayette's troops, so the note Isabel pinned, dripping tea, and suitably smudged, was received. But Mrs. Green did not them, for she was still feeling poorly. She asked if Isabel might stay with her, and Bellingham agreed. We had gotten rid of one obstacle, but it was replaced with another. I brought the horses to the front of Moor Hall and handed Mr. Bellingham his gloves. "Would you care to accompany us?" he asked, "to witness the troops leaving?" No instant falsehood appeared in my mind. I covered my hesitation by petting the horse's nose. "If it's all the same, sir," I said finally, "I've had my fill of watching the soldiers." Bellingham stopped in the middle to put on his gloves. "I find that hard to believe." I dropped my gaze to the ground. "In truth, sir, I've been neglectful of mucking out the barn. I wouldn't want General Green to find it in its current state." He looked for a moment, as if he was going to question me further. "If he did, I'd lead him on a tour of the rather odoriferous stalls." "Very well." He gave the glove a tug, gathered the reins in his hands, and mounted the horse. "You must become more diligent about your chores, Curzon. Caring for the horses is every bit as important as caring for the gentlemen who ride them." "Yes, sir." I bowed as he rode off with his companions. We went about our regular duties for an agonizing half-hour, Isabel washing up, and making a half-hearted effort in the barn. When I could stand it no longer, I hung up the shovel and went into the house. Isabel had just finished preparing a breakfast tray for Mrs. Green, a full teapot, and a delicate cup and a saucer, the leftover biscuits, a wedge of sharp cheese, and a pot of blackberry preserves. It also held a dusty bottle of cordial, and a large glass of wine. "I'll try to get her to drink the whole thing," Isabel said. "Then maybe she'll sleep." I did not think it likely, but it didn't matter either way. Even if Miss Green noticed that we fled, there was no horse for her to ride to camp upon, and it was unlikely she'd walk the distance. When Isabel went in to care for Mrs. Green, I entered Bellingham's bedchamber and stole the paper money from his travelling chest and 2 gold coins hidden in a folio of old letters. He called the coins his emergency treasure trove. If any situation was an emergency, this was it. I was tempted to rummage through his belongings and steal more clothes, but the thought of wearing something that had been on his form was sickening. I dropped the note about Gideon's betrayal on the center of the bed, closed the door behind me, and hurried down to my sleeping shed. It only took a few moments to remove the clothing that had been tailored for me in New York. Bellingham would describe my waistcoat, coat, and breeches in the runaway advertisement. We would them with us and burn them the first chance we had. The stockings and the shirt were less remarkable, so these I placed in an old potato sack along with my blanket. I dressed myself in the tattered shirt, breeches, and coat that I'd been wearing the day that I walked into Moor Hall for the first time. Into the kitchen I went. My mind raced down the list of actions I thought about the night before, ticking them off one after the next, like they were drill commands. Clothes changed, money secured, house in good order. This was necessary because it might delay the search for us. Gentlemen departed. Food. My thoughts were cut short as Isabel hurried into the kitchen and closed the door that led to the hall. Landium, she grinned. I could not speak. Don't worry, she said. I didn't force a sleeping potion on her. She had already taken it, quite a big dose, to relieve her headache. She'll sleep the day away. What's wrong? Why are you looking at me like that? I pointed, still speechless. Isabel wore breeches. I'd never seen how breeches allowed one to gaze upon the entire length of the leg of the wearer, as well as a good eyeful of the person's rump. When boys or men wore breeches, I hadn't taken notice of this, but with the breeches upon Isabel, it was all I could think of. She looked down on her legs. My mother would thrash me if she ever saw me like this. Truth be told, it's an odd sensation, but I love this jacket. You should be more covered than that. I don't want to be. It's nice to walk like this. Odd, but nice. I think you should put your skirt back on and. Shh! Did you hear that? I listened, but there was nothing. The sun was warming up the house, that's all. If not your skirt, then a long greatcoat. No, Isabel said, relaxing from her fright. Wearing a coat on a day as warm as this will draw more attention to me. I sighed. We don't have time to argue. Let's just go. Another loud creak came from the hall, but it was not the wooden sigh of the horse. The door swung open. Bellingham stood there. He pointed his pistol at Isabel. You're not going anywhere, he said.